2 years ago, I couldn't walk more than 5 minutes without my ankles screaming in pain. Every step felt like a sharp jab, as if something inside was breaking. The worst part was that, over time, I stopped doing the things that gave me life. I no longer went out for walks, avoided stairs, and even getting to the kitchen became a battle. I tried everything: painkillers, anti-inflammatories, creams recommended by doctors, natural pills promising relief, but nothing worked for more than a few hours. One day I'd feel a little better. The next the pain came back, stronger, more persistent, like a shadow that wouldn't leave me alone. Doctors told me it was normal. "It's age," they kept repeating. But I refused to believe that being over 70 years old meant giving up walking without pain. Then, just when I was resigned to living like that, something unexpected appeared. It wasn't a medicine. It wasn't an expensive therapy. It was something much simpler. A natural oil recommended by someone I barely trusted. At first I doubted, thinking it would be another empty promise. But I decided to try it. After all, I had tried everything. What happened next still seems hard to believe. In only 1 week, my ankles started to feel different, lighter, less swollen. I walked to the park for the first time without stopping. And it wasn't just my body. My mood changed too. I felt free again. Today, I'm going to tell you everything. What I did, how I used it, and why it worked. But also, what mistakes we must avoid if we want to recover our joints. Because although the oil was key, there are many details that can make the difference between improving or continuing to suffer. And before we go on, do you also have joint problems? Tell me in the comments how old you are and where you're watching from. I'd love to know. Why do ankles suffer so much with age? Over the years, many people start to notice their ankles don't respond the same. Maybe it begins with a slight discomfort in the mornings, a little stiffness that loosens up with movement. Then occasional swelling appears, which we attribute to the weather, footwear, or simply tiredness from the day. But before you realize it, one day you find that walking half a block has become a problem, and you don't understand why. The truth is that ankles are some of the most stressed joints in the entire body. Throughout life, they support us with every step we take, carry our weight, balance our movements, and absorb constant impacts, especially if we've spent years walking on concrete, climbing stairs, or wearing inadequate shoes. With age, the cartilage that protects these joints begins to wear down. This cartilage works like a cushion, preventing bones from rubbing against each other. When it starts to thin or get damaged, every movement can cause pain, swelling, or even injuries. Additionally, circulation in the lower limbs slows down, making it harder for enough oxygen and nutrients to reach the tissues for regeneration. But that's not all. Ligaments and tendons also lose elasticity over time. What was once a firm and flexible joint becomes a weak and tense structure, more prone to sprains or twists. That's why many older people feel their ankles bend easily or no longer hold up like before. There are factors that accelerate this process without us noticing. Overweight, for example, exerts constant pressure on ankles that, over the years, damages cartilage and ligaments. A sedentary lifestyle also plays its part. Without movement, circulation stagnates, muscles weaken, and joints lose their natural support. And if you add a diet poor in anti-inflammatory and antioxidant nutrients, deterioration speeds up even more. Antonio, a 76-year-old neighbor, told me his story a few months ago. He'd always been an active man. He liked walking to the supermarket every day, not so much out of necessity, but for routine, for health, for feeling alive. But one day he noticed that by the time he reached the corner, he had to stop. His ankles hurt. He thought it was temporary. Then he started going only 3 times a week. Later, once a week. And now, he doesn't go at all. He told me with a sadness in his eyes that left me frozen. I never thought I'd stop walking because of my ankles. Antonio's story is the story of millions. Because ankles don't start hurting overnight. They begin with small signs, and if we don't listen, they can completely change how we live. The silent signs that your ankles are getting damaged. The body always warns us. The problem is that many times we don't know how to listen, or worse, we don't want to. And that happens with ankles. They are discreet, silent, until one day they scream. It usually starts with minor discomfort. When you get up in the morning, you feel your ankles are stiff. It's hard to take the first steps, as if you need to warm up the joint before walking normally. But since it goes away soon after, you don't pay much attention. You blame it on sleeping in a bad position or just age. Next comes mild swelling. It's nothing dramatic. At first glance, it looks like a temporary puffiness, but if you press a bit, it hurts. Sometimes it's accompanied by a burning or warm sensation in the area. You might even notice that your shoes feel tighter on one foot than the other. And then there are the sounds, creaks, clicks, little pops that weren't there before. Some people say they feel like something is moving inside the ankle, especially when turning the foot or walking on uneven ground. Many normalize these sounds as part of aging, but in reality, they are signs of wear, friction, and lack of lubrication between the bones. The big mistake is thinking that if the pain isn't severe, then there's no problem. But that's like waiting for a crack to turn into a hole before fixing it. And when we talk about the body, waiting usually has consequences. Rosa, a 78-year-old woman, told me her story through tears. She'd always been independent. She lived alone, did her shopping, went for walks every afternoon. One day, when trying to step up onto the sidewalk curb, her ankle didn't respond. She was stuck in place. She couldn't lift her foot. Not from weakness, but from sudden, sharp pain she felt trying. They had to help her cross the street. At the doctor's, they told her she had chronic joint inflammation and early osteoarthritis. They asked how long she had been feeling discomfort. Her answer was simple: for years, but I endured it. And that's the point. Many of us endure. We get used to discomfort. We believe if it's not unbearable, it doesn't deserve attention. But when it comes to joints, every day counts. Because what begins as mild stiffness can end in total loss of mobility. What starts with a small creak can turn into constant pain walking, climbing stairs, or even standing. Damaged ankles don't shout. They whisper. And if we don't listen in time, that whisper can become something that takes away our freedom to move with dignity. When ankle pain starts, the most common thing is to see a trusted doctor. And logically, the first thing you get is a prescription. Painkillers for the pain, anti-inflammatories for the swelling, and sometimes, if the problem persists, corticosteroid injections or more invasive treatments. At that moment, you feel relief, because at least someone is helping, someone is doing something. And the first days, they might work. But over time, you realize something uncomfortable. The relief these solutions offer is almost always temporary. Painkillers ease pain for a few hours, but don't solve the root problem. Anti-inflammatories reduce swelling until you stop taking them. And injections, although stronger, tend to lose effectiveness with repeated use and cause side effects. I went through that too. I took pills every morning for months. Some made me sleepy, others upset my stomach. I started mixing medications to avoid side effects from the first ones. In the end, I had more pills on my nightstand than books. And the pain always came back. Sometimes stronger, other times with new discomforts elsewhere. There's also the cost, not just money, which is already a lot, but what we pay with our health. The liver suffers, the stomach struggles, and the whole body starts responding less effectively to treatments. Some medicines relieve pain, but leave you drowsy or generally unwell. It's like trading one problem for another. I'm not saying medical treatments don't work. In many cases, they're necessary, especially if the pain is acute or there's a serious injury. But what I want you to understand is that in many cases, they're designed to soothe, not cure. I lived it myself, tried all that, and the pain always returned. It was like a wheel that never stopped turning. I took something, felt better one day, and the next day it started again. And the worst part wasn't the physical pain, it was hopelessness. That feeling that nothing works, that you'll live like this forever. That's the trap of traditional treatments. They provide quick relief, but don't build lasting solutions. And when you realize that, you start looking for other answers, more natural, more sustainable, more respectful of the body. And it was in that search, just when I was about to give up, that I discovered something that changed everything. The discovery of the oil that changed everything. I remember perfectly the day everything changed. It was a grey autumn afternoon, and as almost always at that time, my ankles were particularly unbearable. I had resigned myself to staying home. I cancelled a meeting with friends because walking 2 blocks seemed impossible. I was in a robe, with an ice pack on my right foot, and a heavy silence in the living room. Then the doorbell rang. It was Carmen, my upstairs neighbour. She's 75 years old and has always been one of those people who seem to have more energy than the rest. She walked every day, climbed stairs easily, and always had a ready smile. She brought me hot soup, as she did from time to time when she noticed I was down. Seeing me with a grumpy face, she said without beating around the bush, "Ankles again?" I nodded, tired. "Look," she said, "I don't want to sound like one of those people who think they have the magic solution for everything, but there's something I want you to try." She pulled out a small dark bottle from her bag. It had no label or brand, just a screw cap and an intense aroma I couldn't identify at the moment. "It's a natural oil," she said, "a blend of several plants. It was made by a friend's sister who lives in the countryside. I used it for my knees, and it changed my life." At first, I didn't believe it. How could something so simple help with such deep pain? I had tried pharmacy creams, imported gels, prescribed ointments. All had given me only temporary relief. I didn't see why this little bottle would be different. But something in her eyes made me doubt. It wasn't the typical empty recommendation. She spoke from experience, from the body, from real relief. And that night, without much expectation, I applied it for the first time. The texture was different from everything I'd tried. It wasn't sticky or too oily. The aroma was strong but pleasant, like a mix of forest and mint. I gently massaged each ankle for a few minutes, put on socks and went to sleep. I didn't expect anything. But the next day, I noticed something. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't instant healing. But when I got up, my ankles weren't as stiff. I walked to the kitchen without the usual morning groan. I thought it was a coincidence, maybe the weather or a good night's sleep. But I used it again, day after day, morning and night. And what started as slight improvement became something much bigger. After 1 week, I could walk to the store without stopping. After 10 days, I climbed stairs without dragging my feet. And the best part, no side effects, no fatigue, no acidity, no discomfort like the pills left me. Of course, I didn't want to get my hopes up too much. I wanted to understand what made that oil so special, what plants it contained, their properties, why it worked that way. And I discovered that later when I started researching, asking, reading carefully. But in that first moment, I just felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. What makes this oil so powerful? After noticing the improvement in my ankles, I didn't want to be left wondering. I felt relief, yes, but also curiosity. What was in that oil? Why did it work so well when so many others had failed? So I started investigating. I called Carmen, asked her to talk to her friend, and little by little I uncovered the secrets of that dark bottle that had given me mobility back. It turned out the blend was completely natural, made from plants with medicinal properties used for centuries. What surprised me was that although they didn't have complicated names or strange chemical formulas, their effects were real, very real. The first key ingredient was eucalyptus. This plant not only has a strong, refreshing aroma, but also powerful anti-inflammatory properties. When applied to the skin, it helps reduce swelling almost immediately. It also improves circulation, which is essential for damaged tissues to receive oxygen and nutrients and begin healing. Next came arnica, a flower that grows in mountainous areas. Traditionally used to relieve bruises, sprains, and muscle pain. But the most interesting thing is that it also acts as a natural painkiller. Applied on an inflamed joint, it not only reduces inflammation, it gradually eases pain. Another fundamental component was mint, better known for its freshness than its healing power. But when used in oils, mint has a double function. On one hand, it acts as a vasodilator, helping blood flow better through the affected area. On the other, it produces a sensation of relief and coolness that temporarily fools pain receptors, allowing the body to relax. There were also traces of rosemary, a plant many have in the kitchen, but that hides great regenerative power. Rosemary not only helps reduce inflammation, but stimulates cellular regeneration in soft tissues. That means it can accelerate recovery of ligaments, tendons, and even small muscle tears. Finally, it contains some extra virgin olive oil as a base. Rich in antioxidants and healthy fats, olive oil helps all the other ingredients penetrate the skin better and reach where they need to go. It also moisturizes and protects the treated area, essential for older people whose skin tends to be more sensitive. When you combine all these components, you don't just have a simple pain cream. You have a complete treatment that attacks the problem from multiple angles, reduces inflammation, relieves pain, improves circulation, regenerates tissues, and protects the area. It's a simple but smart formula. And best of all, no side effects. I even found studies from traditional medical centers confirming what I had already felt in my own body. They didn't talk about miracle cures or empty promises, but they showed that topical use of these plants could notably improve mobility and reduce pain in people with joint problems, especially at advanced ages. The most surprising thing is that it's not new. These plants have been used for generations. The thing is, over time, we replaced them with chemical formulas, forgetting that often. Nature already had the answer, and in my case, it was kept inside a little bottle, waiting to be discovered. How I applied it, step by step, daily routine for 1 week. Now that you know what the oil contained and why it worked, I want to tell you exactly how I used it, because it's not enough to apply it just any way. The key is in the routine, in consistency, and in the little details that make the difference. First, let's talk about the amount. There's no need to soak yourself in oil. I applied about 6 or 7 drops on each ankle. It's better to use a small amount with a good massage than to use a lot and spread it unevenly. Next, the application area. I focused on the entire ankle contour, inside, outside, and a bit towards the heel and instep. That area is full of nerves, tendons, and small blood vessels that benefit from the massage and oil absorption. Frequency was key. I applied it twice a day without fail, once in the morning, right after getting up, and once before going to bed. Both times I took my time, at least 5 minutes per ankle. I didn't rush. It was like a little ritual. And now for the most asked question, when did you start noticing improvement? I'll tell you day by day, because it was a slow but clear evolution. Day 1, I applied the oil without much expectation. What I noticed right after the massage was a feeling of freshness and lightness, as if the ankle was breathing. That night I slept better, and the next morning I felt less stiffness. I walked to the kitchen without holding onto the wall. It was a small change, but for me, it was a ray of hope. Day 3, I noticed the pain when putting weight on my foot had decreased. It was no longer that sharp pain forcing me to limp. It was more like a mild, tolerable discomfort. I even dared to walk down the hallway and around a bit. I stopped several times, yes, but not because of pain, but because I didn't want to overdo it. Day 5. There was no visible swelling anymore. The ankle, which before looked swollen by the end of the day, stayed the same size from morning till night. Also, when applying the oil, I noticed the skin was softer, more hydrated. The whole joint area seemed healthier. Day 7. That day, I walked to the corner store. No cane, no breaks, and most importantly, no pain. It wasn't a long or fast walk, but it was complete. When I got home, I sat down and smiled. I couldn't remember the last time I felt so free. Now, some tips I want to give you to make this routine really work. 1. Always apply it on clean, dry skin. If you have residue from other products or moisture, absorption will be less. 2. Don't use it as an emergency fix. It's a natural treatment and needs repetition and consistency. If you only apply it once in a while, you won't see results. 3. Combine the massage with gentle movements. I stretched my feet, rotated my ankles, and wiggled my toes after applying the oil. That helped activate the area better. 4. Don't stop moving completely. Even if it hurts, try taking small steps inside the house. The oil relieves, but the body also needs movement to heal. And 5. Listen to yourself. If something isn't right, adjust. Sometimes you need to apply a little more or rest longer. Not all bodies respond the same, but all can improve if treated with care and attention. I followed that routine for weeks, and the more I did it, the more I noticed the change. Because in the end, it wasn't just an oil. It was the act of believing again that I could heal. What you should avoid if you want the oil to work. By now, you know the oil can make a big difference. But there's something else you need to understand. It's not magic. It's natural, yes. It's powerful too. But for it to work, there are things you can't do, because if you do, you'll sabotage your own relief. One of the most common mistakes is using it once and expecting a miracle. Many people apply the oil one day, feel a bit of relief, and then forget about it. They think one application will heal years of wear, inflammation, and pain. But it doesn't work that way. Like any natural treatment, it needs time, repetition, and above all, commitment. Another mistake is mixing it with other products without control. Sometimes, out of desperation, people start using creams, gels, sprays, patches, all at once. And in the end, the body doesn't know what it's receiving. Mixing products without knowing how they interact can cause irritation, block the oil's absorption, or just cancel out its effects. If you try it, use it alone at least for the first week. Give it a chance to work by itself. There are also those who use it well but don't move all day, and this is very important. Because the oil relieves, yes, but movement activates circulation, strengthens muscles, and keeps joints alive. I'm not telling you to run, but walk a bit inside, do gentle ankle movements, keep your legs active. Without movement, there's no full recovery. And something many forget. Diet also influences. Eating foods that cause inflammation, like sugars, processed meats, fried foods, or refined flour, can make the oil's job much harder. But if you accompany the treatment with an anti-inflammatory diet, more fruits, vegetables, turmeric, ginger, oily fish, the process will be much faster and more effective. I understood all this better when I met Jorge's story. Jorge is 73 years old. He lives alone and had suffered ankle pain for years. I told him about the oil. He dared to try it. But after 2 days, he told me it hadn't worked. I was surprised. I asked how many times he'd used it. He said once, and that he hadn't noticed any change. Then he admitted he applied it right after putting on another cream prescribed by his rheumatologist, and also that he had spent the whole day in bed watching TV without moving. I explained to him that this way, the oil couldn't take effect. He needed consistency. One application wasn't enough. The body needs support in all areas: movement, nutrition, rest, and above all, patience. He tried again, this time with discipline. 2 weeks later, he called me excited. He said, "I don't know if it was the oil or the way I used it this time, but the pain has decreased a lot." And the truth is, it was everything. The oil, yes, but also the attitude with which he used it. So if you're going to try it, and I hope you do it with respect. Respect for your body, for your time, for your process. Don't expect pain to disappear by magic. But if you do things right, I assure you, change will come. The oil was, without a doubt, the starting point for my recovery. But if I learned anything on this path, it's that real improvement comes from combined care. There are natural remedies that, when working together, boost their effects. It's not about doing more out of desperation, but doing better with wisdom and consistency. One of the most effective allies I discovered was contrast baths, a very old technique, but incredibly powerful. It consists of dipping the feet alternately in hot and cold water. I did it at night before applying the oil. 5 minutes in hot water, then 1 minute in cold water. I repeated this 3 times. The result? My ankles deflated, circulation activated, and I felt immediate lightness. Hot water relaxes muscles. Cold water reduces swelling. Together, they work wonders. Another practice I never stopped was gentle massages. Not only when applying the oil, but also with a bit of neutral cream or even warm olive oil. Massaging the ankles helps release accumulated tension and improves blood flow. 5 minutes a day can make a huge difference. I also started drinking natural infusions, especially turmeric and ginger. Both are plants known for their anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. Turmeric, combined with a pinch of black pepper, helps the body fight inflammation from within. Ginger also relieves joint pain and improves digestion. I began having a cup every morning, and it became part of my daily routine. And of course, I added a small routine of gentle ankle exercises. At first, sitting down with legs stretched out. I moved my feet in circles, first one way, then the other. Then I flexed my toes, lifted and lowered my heels. After a few days, I began doing it standing, holding onto a chair. No more than 5 minutes, but every day. These movements kept my joints active and my muscles strong. All this not only helped me recover, it also taught me something very valuable: how to maintain joint health long term. Because once the pain disappears, many people return to old habits. They stop caring, abandon the routine. But if we want strong ankles, we need to treat them kindly every day. If you still doubt this works, let me tell you about Clara. Clara is 81 years old. She's a woman who always loved dancing. When she was young, she danced tango, cumbia, even bolero. But over the years, pain in her ankles forced her to stop moving. She was resigned. Her son bought her a cane and even a wheelchair just in case. One day she heard about the oil. She tried it, but she also did more. Contrast baths, infusions, exercises. She told me she played music while rotating her ankles in the air, as if rehearsing to dance again. After 3 months, she returned to an adult dance class. At first, she just watched. Then she started moving slowly. And today, she dances every week. Not like before, she says, but with a smile so big it looks like she's 20 years old. That's what happens when a natural treatment becomes part of your lifestyle. It's not just about taking away pain, but recovering what pain had taken from you. Movement, freedom, and joy. I went from thinking I would never walk well again to regaining my freedom in just 1 week. And it wasn't with surgery, an expensive medicine, or a miracle solution I saw on TV. It was with something so simple that at first, I was even embarrassed to tell others: a small bottle of natural oil. But that oil, used consistently, patiently, and with respect for my body, gave me back something I thought was lost: movement, confidence, the desire to go out without fear of stopping halfway. Today, I walk calmly. I climb stairs. I go to the supermarket without thinking twice. And not because I found a definitive cure, but because I understood something we often forget. Sometimes the solution isn't the most expensive, but the most constant and natural. The oil was the beginning, yes, but what really made the difference was the change in attitude. I started taking care of my body, listening to it, not ignoring the signs. I discovered that small acts, a massage, a hot infusion, a daily stretch, can turn into great results. This video isn't just about a product. It's to remind you that you're not alone. That if you're going through pain that limits you, frustrates you, makes you feel older than you are, there is hope. There are paths you can still walk. You just need to give yourself a chance.
And now I ask you,
are you going to try it too? Tell me which part of your body hurts the most and how you're facing that problem. I'd love to read your story in the comments. Help if I can. And if this video helped you, if you felt even a little relief just hearing it, share it with someone who needs it. Sometimes a word, a story, a shared experience can change another person's life. Because in the end, we all need to feel it's still possible to walk, to move, to live without pain.